Welcome back. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, needs to be free from political influence so that it can work independently and fearlessly. This is the view of a senior advocate of Nigeria, Adegboruwa. The senior lawyer commended the appointment and confirmation of Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa as the chairman of the EFCC, but hopes there will be a lot more focus on intelligence gathering, as well as a reorganization that sees the separation of prosecutorial from investigation powers.
I think that the statement that the presidency has communicated to the average Nigerian is in terms of the respect to the agitation for young people to man very important institutions in the fight against corruption. The EFCC has come to be like the foremost institution for fighting that war, even though there are other agencies such as the ICPC and the regular police. And it's an organization that needs somebody who is agile, somebody who is young and vibrant. And I have had the opportunity to appear in proceedings where Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa has testified as a witness of the EFCC. And I must commend his intelligence, his appraiser generally, and grasp of investigation activities. So quite very impressive. So I do commend the president in that regard. But I think beyond that, I believe that there's need for a holistic restructuring of that organization, starting with the separation of the prosecutorial powers and investigative powers. You know, because what obtains in the FCC now is that there are people who are investigators, who will investigate petitions, and then also draft charges, and then also follow up with those charges to prosecute. You know, so it creates the problem of conflict of interest. It creates the problem of bias, likelihood of bias, because in the course of investigation, the fact that a charge has been preferred means that the investigator has made up his mind one way or the other that there's a prima facie case to pursue. And so he pursues that case with such vigor that he doesn't want to listen to any alternative or plausible option rather than just securing conviction. And that is dangerous. And that's why you see that the energy in opposing bail for defendants probably outweighs the concentration on the main charges itself, as I've seen in most EFCC cases. So there is need for that separation. And then there's need for total severance of EFCC from political influence, because that is the bane of that agency, in the sense that, you know, people tend to have come to grasp to use the agency to settle scores politically, whereas we found in times past that, you know, people probably who have political ambitions are suddenly charged to court. People who have political ambitions are suddenly invited, you know, and others, you know, with similar cases are allowed to go free. So it's important to make that separation to ensure that the agency is independent and then is able to focus on the core mandate of detection and prevention of financial crimes. And then the other point about investing in intelligence gathering. The era of compelling suspects to make confessional statements is not helping the prosecution of anti-corruption war, because, you know, once those cases go to court, you then find that lawyers raise objections, trial within trial, and those ones who get to the Court of Appeal go to Supreme Court, and before you come back, you know, witnesses are tired, and you may not be able to get prosecution going again. So it's important to invest more in infrastructure, you know, to get the method of gathering intelligence. You know, look at what happened to the case of Hush Puppy. You know, there was no need to arrest him. For close to 4 years, the FBI were trailing him, followed him to Dubai, you know, because most of these anti-corruption cases are documentary, bank statements, and the lifestyle of the person. So they were able to get 4 years of forensic monitoring. By the time they picked him up, it was not necessary to even contest the case against him. You know, so that's what we should leverage upon to ensure that we develop the intelligence capacity and then reduce the issue of interference between the agency and suspects, beating them up, people making allegations of torture or extortion, is of no need at all. It will not help the agency.
And on the home stretch, we bring you a recap of some of the activities from the courtrooms.
We begin with the report that the Supreme Court has affirmed the 10-year jail term slammed on a former governor of Plateau State, Senator Joshua Darie, for alleged criminal breach of trust. In a unanimous judgment read by Justice Helen Ogwumiju on behalf of the five-man panel of the court upheld the sentence passed on Senator Darie by Justice Adegboruwa Banjoko of an Abuja High Court. However, the court quashed the second charge of criminal misappropriation of funds preferred against the former governor. Senator Darie had in his appeal asked the Supreme Court to overturn the November 16, 2018 judgment of the Court of Appeal Abuja, which convicted him and sentenced him to 10 years for diverting public funds estimated at 1.162 billion naira while he was the governor. Still in Abuja, a federal high court has fixed the 17th and 18th of March this year for the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and 10 others to appear before the court to testify in the trial of Mr. Abdulrasheed Maina, a former chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Team. The trial judge, Justice Okon Abang, had on Mr. Maina's request issued a subpoena compelling the AGF, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, and former acting chairman of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, and 8 others to come before the court on March the 9th, 10th, and 11th to testify for the defendant. On Thursday, March 11th, Mr. Falana told the court that although he had not been served with the subpoena, he heard about it and decided to come before the court out of respect. The senior advocate said that the subpoena will provide an opportunity for him to put an end to the needless controversy surrounding a property he never bought. Mr. Maina's first witness, Ngozika Uwoma, had on the 4th of March testified about certain monies and property recovered by the former pension boss and how Mr. Ibrahim Magu, to whom the properties were remitted, had allegedly sold some of the property to friends and associates, including Mr. Falana. The newly appointed chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdulrasheed Bawa, says that the anti-corruption body has identified about 70 billion naira fraud in the fuel subsidy program of the federal government. Mr. Bawa made this known in an interview with journalists after testifying in a 1.4 billion naira fraud trial involving an oil company, Nadabo Energy, at the Lagos High Court, Ikeja. Although the trial predates his appointment as EFCC chairman, Mr. Bawa has been involved in the investigation of the matter, and with his testimony, he becomes the first EFCC boss to give evidence in court. The EFCC accused the first defendant, Abubakar Ali Peters, and his company, Nadabo Energy, of allegedly using forged documents to obtain 1.4 billion naira from the federal government as oil subsidy after allegedly inflating the quantity of PMS purportedly supplied. The defendants had pleaded not guilty to the charge. And we round off the report that the Lagos State Judicial Panel on Restitution for Victims of SARS-related abuses and other matters has awarded the sum of 7.5 million naira to a petitioner, Mark Nwadi. The petitioner had told the panel that in May 1999, after he had just finished his secondary school education, he came to Lagos to look for his brother. He said he was standing at Egbeda bus stop with his traveling bag alongside other persons waiting for a bus when a police vehicle suddenly appeared, stopped, and the officers began to arrest people. They were taken to the Idimo police station and asked to pay a bribe of 100,000 naira each. Because he had no money, he was taken to the SARS office in Ikeja and the bribe was reduced to 10,000 naira. When he could not come up with the money, he was paired with a suspected criminal, taken to court, arraigned, and sent to Kirikiri, where he eventually spent 6 years. The petitioner, who says he became partially blind as a result of the incident, says he developed hatred for the Nigeria police after his ordeal.
And that's our program this week. Don't forget that you can find these and past episodes of the program on our YouTube page. I'm Shola Shirley. Thank you for watching and see you next week.